into that, with that background, you've had Republicans who've refused to accept the results. So it's all subjective. If they like the results, they'll accept the results. If they don't like the results, they won't accept the results. Let's bring in Donnie Deutsch. He's the host of the podcast On Brand with Donnie Deutsch. And it's a great podcast, by the way, Donnie. You also, of course, an ad legend, advertising legend, a branding legend. Let's talk about the Republican brand here. We don't need to engage in hyperbole. The peaceful transition of power has been the guarantor of American democracy, of Western democracy for centuries, where the loser accepts the results. And we've seen, in our lifetime, we saw Al Gore do it in the most extraordinary way, the most dramatic way. It's putting country over party. And so, here we have a vote. We're going to have a vote this fall. And I know a lot of Republicans, John Meacham would call them Peter Millar vest-wearing Republicans, who just want to pretend that it's Bob Dole against Bill Clinton. They're going, well, I just always vote for a Republican. No, this year, you're not just voting for a Republican. It's a vote for a candidate who doesn't believe in the most basic principles of American democracy. And we could get on the list, but I really don't want to waste my breath on it because everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about, the killing of generals and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you have Republicans, those Peter Millar vest-wearing Republicans who want to say, it's just like, it's Republicans and Democrats. What's the difference? No, it's a vote actually for somebody that does not subscribe to the most basic precepts of American democracy against a candidate who does. And it's really that simple, Donnie, isn't it?
It is. We've said many times on the show, when an authoritarian tells you what they're going to do, you pay attention to him. Well, now his followers are telling you what they're going to do, so you pay attention to it. And for anybody, and Joe, you can tick off the list. We can all tick off the list, whether it's no longer a free election, whether it's a weaponized Justice Department, whether it's an independent Federal Communications Commission, on and on and on. We can go. When anybody says to me, well, that's not really going to happen because we've got checks and balances in the institutions, you're already seeing there will be no checks and balances. So not only do we have the tell from Fearless Leader, we have the tell from the lemming followers. So there's no mystery here. So there is absolutely no mystery here. So anybody that votes Republican and doesn't understand you're voting for the end of democracy, just pay attention to the Sunday shows this past weekend. And the other thing I want to say, and we've talked a lot about this on the show, and I've talked about this as a man, these pathetic men, the spinelessness, the obsequiousness, the sucking upness, I don't know how they face their loved ones. I don't know how they go home to their children.
These are the guys that talk about the war on masculinity, right?
Yeah,
they play tough guys. And as I've always said about the war on masculinity, like if you're a real man, you don't really notice that people are trying to declare a war on masculinity. You just go out and you do what you're supposed to do, and you tune out the noise. And yet these guys that play tough guys and want want the world to be more manly, and they're the least masculine men. They are the guys that went to Ivy League colleges and won't defend their father's honor. They won't defend their wife's honor. They will allow Donald Trump to say the worst, most humiliating things about them constantly. How do I say it politely? Just
obsequiously.
Don't use the word. Don't use the word, Joe. Don't do it. I used it once. I got in a lot of trouble.
No.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
But
we know.
They just. I can't say it. He undermines them and he humiliates them, and they just come back for more. And they're the ones writing books about manhood? Give me a frickin' break.
Yeah.
It is. I just can't understand. I don't know if these guys had their lunch money taken growing up. I don't know what it is. I keep thinking about Josh Hawley prancing across the Capitol during the siege there. But these are, you know, the irony, and you bring it up about them talking about the male under siege in this country. You guys are not setting an example for what it means to stand up and be a man.
No, they're not. They're not.
Yeah, well, let's see how much masculinity pays into the VP pick too. My hunch at the moment is that he's for all the talk about how he might have to have a woman to drum up suburban women voters, Donald Trump is much more comfortable having a man on the ticket, and I can see that going that way. Lemire, there's a new poll that's just dropping on New York Times Siena poll that's just dropping this morning that's talking about the memory gap that Americans have around both January the 6th and COVID. And if we're looking at kind of branding issues, obviously this is something that the Biden administration wants to resurface. We've seen President Biden recently talking about former President Trump's Clorox comments when it came to treating COVID. They're going to play a lot more of the January the 6th tape. How important is it to... And this New York Times Siena poll shows that in those swing states, it's still very close. How important is it to the Biden campaign to resurface all of those memories